Good morning and welcome to our next episode of Gravitas Expert Speak webinar, a 30-minute slot. And today we are going to be talking about growth mindset. The, the change around us is quite evident. Every talk that I have seen starts off with change, and it is not that it is a change which is something new, but the pace at which this change is taking place, that's unprecedented. And to put it in perspective of how fast this change is taking place, is that students at the college right now, whatever that they are preparing themselves for, those jobs they still haven't been created, or the jobs that for which they are preparing themselves, they might be obsolete by the time they get into the job market. Now, so how do we prepare these students for what sort of jobs or what sort of an environment are we preparing them? And more important, those people who are already working and who are also going through the same change here, how can we cope up with that and how can we thrive in that environment? There are many things I'm sure that can be done. There are lots of experts who have been talking of various things. But one of the things that keep coming back again and again is the growth mindset, a term and concept popularized by Stanford professor Carol Dweck, the new definition of success, the new way to success. And today we have a fellow coach of mine whose terms and defines himself as a growth mindset coach. He's a speaker, inspiring speaker. In fact, one of our partners at the Gravitas, he introduced me to him, and I happened to look at one of his videos, and I liked his engaging and authentic style of speaking, and I decided to connect with him and bring him on board. So here it is. Let me welcome Utkarsh, our today's guest speaker for the session, who's going to be talking about growth mindset. So welcome, Utkarsh. Welcome to our talk today.
Thank you so much, Rajiv. Pleasure to be here and talking to you and the audience.
Great. So one of the things that I liked about your video, which talked about, that we were talking about how sometimes we become too concerned about the background, the clothes that we are wearing when we are trying to record a video, and it just stops you from going live or doing something.
Yeah.
And it's just so true, because not only you and me, but at the same time, I'm sure we have gone to the restaurant and there are people who are trying to take photograph of their food. It takes about 10-15 minutes time. So I think we are all concerned about that.
Yeah.
But yes, it takes a little shift in your mindset to convince yourself and go that. I think that sums up a bit about what are the new things that we are learning based upon the change which is being forced upon us, right? And that's the talk. So just to start off and hand it over to Utkarsh, when I asked Utkarsh about how can I introduce yourself, he had an interesting story to relate, and that probably would move into his own introduction. So let me just hand it over to him, and we'll take it from there. So
Great.
go ahead, Utkarsh.
Thank you.
All
Thank you, Rajiv.
yours.
Yeah, no, this concept of growth mindset has been very close to my heart because I've been driven throughout my life by this phrase called Ancora Imparo, which was given and is attributed to the great Renaissance artist Michelangelo, and he
Okay.
gave it at an age of 87. And what this means in English is, "Yet I'm learning." And I feel like if an 87-year-old artist can do that, then what is stopping us from till the end of our lifetime to not do that? And so, if I take you quickly back through my career, I started off as a physiotherapist, had a couple of clinics in Delhi, then moved to filming and video editing, which was another like logical leap that I took for a leadership training institute. Then moved to sales and operations for them. But then in the middle of the pandemic, I was like, entrepreneurship is something that's close to my heart, coaching is something that's close to my heart, so maybe this is the right time to take this leap. And all throughout this 15-16 years of my career and life, I've been driven that how can you learn more, how can you push yourself out of that comfort zone which feels so amazing, but then the growth that happens is in that painful zone. So how can you keep doing that? And that's why I think growth mindset is just such a special topic and a relevant topic, as you were saying at the beginning of the conversation, that change is
Mhm.
constant. How do you keep growing and learning and unlearning the new skills?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the skills, you can call them a meta skill, not necessarily something specific to any trade or whatever, but
Yeah,
learning how to learn that itself is a skill. And I think having a mindset is very, very important. Great. So let's launch into it straight away. And I would like you to start off by just defining exactly what do we mean by having a growth mindset, what it is and what it is not, because I'm sure there are
absolutely.
lots of different ways people might perceive it to be. So let's clarify it for them first.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, so see, when Carol Dweck brought this concept to the world, she compared two mindsets. One was having a fixed mindset, and the other is called the growth mindset. Now, one background I want to give is that in the 20th century, it was believed that our brain is completely static, that it does not change. But the recent studies and the fMRIs and the EEGs have proved that your brain is actually plastic and it can change. So if you learn new things, if you try and improve your brain, if you try and get feedback from the environment, it is actually making new neurons fire in your brain, which is leading to those neurons wiring together. So there's a very popular saying, neurons that fire together wire together. So if we believe
Right.
in that concept and start with that background, then the growth mindset truly means that whenever you're given a challenge, whenever you're criticized, whenever you're given feedback, you are ready to adapt through that feedback. You're ready to learn that new skill and improve your game. And this
Mm.
constant improvement is what totally defines the growth mindset. Which, on the
Okay.
other side, in a fixed mindset, is that, oh, I don't want to grow. I am very comfortable where I am. So why should I grow? And that's where you limit yourself, you limit your potential. Whereas in a growth mindset, you're saying that I have infinite potential and let me keep growing towards that. So that's the basic definition.
Right, right, right. In fact, I was also looking at some infographics and it talked about that people, they have a different dialogue with themselves when they have a fixed mindset. So, I mean,
True.
when it comes to a challenge, a growth mindset would probably say, hey, uh, this looks something different. Let me make sense of it. But
Yeah,
when it's a fixed mindset, they look at it and say, I may look like a fool if I'm not able to handle it, right? And they
yeah,
try to have that avoidance. Am I correct?
uh,
So what are some
absolutely.
of, yeah? So what are some of those you know dialogue which a self dialogue that we engage ourselves in when we are in a fixed mindset zone? Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, yeah. See, so what happens is like Professor Dweck, what she did was she did this study with school students. So she would give them a math puzzle and she would ask them like, "How are you feeling now? Are you feeling challenged?" And she said that she found a stark difference between kids who wanted more challenge, were
Mhm.
responding with a growth mindset. They said, "Oh, I'm excited! What a great puzzle I have! Can I go to the next level now?" Whereas those with a fixed mindset were saying, "Oh, I'm good right now. I don't want to do anything else." So the conversation difference is that in a growth mindset, you're saying, I failed once, I got a setback, let me try
Mhm.
again. Whereas a fixed mindset may say, oh, I failed, let me just give up and not do that.
Right.
The fixed mindset may say that my effort is not helping me and I'm not able to solve it. Whereas the growth mindset might say that, oh, my brain is getting trained, let me figure a new way out. Let me see what else can I do. And in my personal life also, I've Rajiv, had a mentor who once asked me like, Utkarsh, do you play the violin? And I said, I don't play the violin. And he said, Utkarsh, that's the wrong answer. And I'm like, why is that the wrong answer? I've never played the violin. And that's what he said, that you've never played a violin, so maybe you know how to play it but you've never tried it. And I'm like, wow, that's so true.
100%, absolutely. In fact, I had come across a definition of confidence,
Hmm.
and that I think embodies growth mindset again. Is because if I were to ask you, say, if do you know how to drive a car, you may
Yeah,
either say that I may, yeah, I mean, either you know it or you don't know it, right?
yeah,
So most likely, when I ask this question, people say, yes, of course I know. And how confident are you of driving a car? Yes, because I have done something in the past.
yeah,
So you are confident about things that you have already done. But
yes,
in today's scenario, when you are encountering new, kind of situations every single day where you do not have any precedence of, how do
right,
you teach your mind to go and experiment or try things out which you have never done before, right?
yeah,
And for
yeah,
that, it requires a different mindset altogether, which is
absolutely,
that. I may not know how to do it, but I can always figure it out because I've
Correct.
not tried it. I don't know about it, right? So
Correct.
is it something similar that you are talking about, that you don't know to play violin because I've not tried it, but you never know, if I try it, I'll be able to do that. Yeah,
Absolutely.
brilliant.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So this is something that I was again, while going through the article by Carol Dweck. There are times where people, when they come across this concept of growth mindset, they say, "Oh, I already have it," right? And they
Yeah.
say, I'm open-minded, I already have it, right?
Yeah.
So what is wrong with that? Where is the difference between, where do people mistake it for a growth mindset by saying that I'm open-minded and I already know it? Because
Yeah.
they obviously don't know. Can you just clarify that?
Yeah. So see, in the words that you used, you're saying that people are not open to new learning, and they're saying that I already know this. As soon as
Mhm.
you start a conversation as a human being that I know this, that's when you've
Mhm.
stopped yourself from having a growth mindset. Because with a
Ah,
growth mindset, you have to say that I know this, but I'm open to more learning, or I
curiosity.
might not know the best. Curiosity, absolutely, that's the word. And another thing
Yeah.
that Professor Dweck shares is the power of yet, where
Hmm.
again you bring back to that. Yes, I have, for example, if you look at our office space and our professional network, I know how to lead a meeting, but maybe there is a better way I can do that. Am I
Hmm.
open to that or not? Do I know the best way to do it yet? And if you
Hmm.
start to explore with that mindset, I think new horizons open up for you, and you're then more open to learning. You're more curious, you will question more, and you will be listening even attentively, because you're not entering a meeting saying that, oh, I know everything, my solution is the best. But you're saying, let's collectively build a solution. Having said that, I will still be guiding you in the right direction.
Right. So you are saying that when you have a growth mindset, you do not assume anything to be final, and you are always open. You are not judgmental. You are open to exploring other ideas as well. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely, absolutely. You're
Mm.
open to new ideas, you're
Mm.
open to challenges, you're not resistive of those challenges. You're
Right.
open to saying that I'm going to receive feedback truly as a gift, and not just do like lip service to it.
Right.
Criticism will happen, and that's okay too. I think
Mm.
the biggest stream here is also how we respond to failure, between the
Mm.
two mindsets. Because a
Right.
fixed mindset person, as soon as they fail, they tend to give up, and they tend to get defensive at the end of it. Whereas a growth mindset person considers it to be like an opportunity, that, oh, yes,
Opportunity.
I failed. Let me
Yeah.
now learn what I can do from this failure. Let me
Right.
see how I can fast fail the next time. Let me see how I can maybe fail smartly the next time. So that's the stark difference between the two mindsets.
Right, right. So learning how to fail, is that what you're saying? That we if we know that failing is just a part and process of learning and getting better, it will become easier for you to accept that failure in the short term, and that will also help you to kind of grow this growth mindset, that if I'm accepting failure, it does not stop me from trying again, but it helps me to say I'm closer to my goal as such. Is that?
Absolutely. I think you've put it very beautifully. And if we kind of reflect back and see, failure is something that happens to all of us from the moment we are born to the moment we'll die. I mean, as a
Yeah,
child, I give this example that a child learns to walk by failing or
yeah,
falling
yeah.
again and again. But no one tells that child to, why are you falling or why are you failing? You have to learn to walk. I think that's the beginner's mind that we can
Yeah.
take away from this conversation, that as a child, when we were very okay to fail, when we were very okay to fall, and we still
Mm,
did not give up the art or the act of walking, then why are we
mm.
stopping ourselves in our uh, 20s and our 30s and our 40s to fail and to learn a new way to do and achieve certain things?
Yeah, yeah, it would be interesting to kind of see if you were to give, say, okay, child, you have only another 20 opportunities to learn how to walk. And after that, if you cannot learn, then you just give up.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And most of
Okay.
us will be in a crib, Rajiv, by the way.
Well, no wonder we all walk now, because nobody said that, you have got only that many chances. You fail,
Absolutely.
but until you succeed. Okay, that's a good one. I really like that. So I'm going to touch upon the next part of one more, part of this growth mindset, which Carol talks about, and that is in the way that we uh, foster a growth mindset in other people, the way that we either you know give feedback, either sarcastically, even while you are saying encouraging words. uh, there is a specific way that we need to encourage people. Just by saying brilliant job and all that, that does not foster a growth mindset. Do you want to talk a little bit about that part? What is the difference? I mean, because I thought that encouraging people, giving positive reinforcement or positive feedback is a good way to uh, inspire them or encourage them. What is wrong with that? Is there something that you want to say about?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, that you've touched upon a very beautiful point. So I think, see, feedback is a very critical aspect of one's growth journey.
Mm.
If I'm unable to give feedback to my people or to others around me, and I'm
Right.
not supporting their growth, then I'm going to stop them from realizing their highest potential. So I think
Right.
for that, the feedback that you give has to be constructive, and it has to be not like all praise. And by constructive, I mean that if you're finding that by certain adjustments that person can take their game to the next level, then it is your responsibility to make sure that you convey that feedback to them. If it is
Right.
all the time negative feedback or non-constructive feedback for that matter, it will bring that other person down. And if it is all the time the praise and then the positive affirmation is what you're doing, that is also detrimental to the person's growth. So I think it's a very
Mm.
fine balance between how you're giving feedback, making it constructive, but also helping the other person adjust. One additional
Yeah.
point, Raju, I'll share on that is that when we give feedback or when we have these conversations, I think one thing that we need to be very mindful as managers, if we move into that conversation now, is to make sure that we are conveying the right emotion, because our
Mm.
emotions need to tend to cloud our judgment a lot. And so, for example, if you're reacting to your failure, then you're emotional about it. If you're reactive to a feedback, you're emotional about it. You have to be sure that you have that adjustment on your emotions, which allows you to logically and rationally take that feedback and give that feedback so that there's growth happening for both parties.
Right. Yeah. So I'm reminded of one of the quotes from Maya Angelou, and who said that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And I think we take that to our heart, and sometimes we don't realize how much we inspire, or on the other hand, how much are we damaging other person's morale by the way that we give feedback. Yeah, brilliant. So let's quickly move on to the next. Thank you very much. Let's move to the next point, to the basic question. It's all good. The concept is great. What do I do tomorrow when I go to the office to
Yeah,
start building a growth mindset? What are some of the characteristics of a growth mindset? How does it look like uh,
absolutely.
when you have a growth mindset?
Yeah, I think I'll share a few points here. The most important one to me is like, as individuals, we have to own our growth. So the first
Right.
point that I want to share is that one has to create a practice of learning every day, whether it's
Right.
5 minutes of learning, 15 minutes of learning, or 30 minutes of learning based on your
Mhm.
schedule. But do make sure that you learn each day. What I've personally done and really helps me is to actually put learning on the calendar as an activity, so that
Make
there's
it
no, it's like a meeting block that Utkarsh has a meeting with Utkarsh to learn. And I think that's been
Mhm.
really helpful in my own journey to learn each day. So
Right.
that's the top one. I think the second is, Rajiv, there could be as managers, as teams, as individuals, we can start to build a culture of growth mindset where we
Mhm.
say, let's come together as a team and find opportunities to learn. Let's come together as two individuals, maybe create those buddies within the organization to see that if I can leverage the other person and they can leverage me to add
Mhm.
learning to our time. So that has to be a conscious process. The second I can say is like, again, coming back to that, the power of the yet, that whenever you're doing something, just believe in that yet, that I'm unable to crack this code or crack this project or do this solve this problem because I'm not yet come up with my best solution. And it's the
Right.
yet that will allow you to then grow and learn and prosper. And then the third one is just approach everything in life as a with a beginner's mind. Whether you're doing a big project, whether you're leading a team, whether you're managing people, just do work with that beginner's mindset where you say that I'm always growing, I am always trying to learn new things, and any feedback or failure that comes my way is just the next step on that stride on where I want to reach. So it's a conscious effort, to summarize. You need to put calendar invites to yourself to make sure that learning happens. And three, just have like an open and curious mindset where you want to learn each day.
Brilliant, wonderful. And again, to uh, talk about how do you foster, I mean, risk taking. The more people around me are tolerant of me making a mistake, the more I'm encouraged to take risks, to do something which we have never done it before. And that probably can be one of the ways that we can create that bohemi, collective learning part of it. And if we know that if I were to do something which is unprecedented and I make a mistake and um, it doesn't pan out the way that I had thought about it, that my boss, that my colleagues, they are going to take it in the stride and think that yes, it's a process of learning, rather than kind of crucifying me for making a mistake. So I think that could be another way of looking at uh, what would encourage people to learn and make mistakes through learning like that. Is that something that we can uh, kind of think about doing as far as teams are concerned?
Absolutely, I think that's a brilliant idea. And one example comes to mind is of Microsoft, where
Right,
till about 2013, 14, till Satya Nadella was not at the helm,
right,
Microsoft was a very different kind of organization. The growth
right,
was slowed down, and there were internal conflicts. But when Satya Nadella came, I think his one of these major transformation was that let's build an organization that's oriented to growth mindset. So there was
right,
higher collaboration. Each one could give feedback to one another, and it came from the top down. I think change can happen both ways. It could be bottoms up or top down, and it's the organization and the people in the organization that have to own that change. The way you're saying that it's
yeah,
okay to fail. See,
yeah, yeah,
again, going back to that one point I shared, that one needs to understand that failure in a smart way is important. You cannot fail stupid in an organization. So smart failing is a critical piece of that process, and
right.
that will help foster a growth mindset culture. Absolutely.
That was a great example of Microsoft that you shared. In fact, I finished reading that book, Hit Refresh, some time back,
Oh,
and
okay.
the most powerful part of that book, in which he talks about how they were able to change the culture of the entire organization,
Yeah.
was to realize that because of their market leadership in that space for such a long time, there was some sort of an arrogance which had set into the organization that we know best what our customers want,
Correct.
right? But at the same time, over a period of time, because of that, they saw a decline in the adoption of their products. And what Satya did was to come and says, instead of that telling mindset, can we go with a learning mindset,
Yeah.
from an asking place of what exactly do our customers want? So he created the culture of putting the customer in the center and then building this. And brilliant, kudos to him that he did this in about 24 to 28 months time, right? I mean, it is one of the most phenomenal turnarounds in the corporate history that can be kind of cited as a great example of having a growth mindset and fostering that. So yes,
Absolutely.
I would definitely recommend anyone coming from a corporate background to see what are some of the practices that can be adopted to foster a growth mindset within their teams.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So I think we are coming to the close of our, kind of talk here. So I would like to ask you, what are some of the things? Can you give us few tips or few advice on what are some of the practices as an individual I can start doing? One, two, three. Just the way that you mentioned that, I need to be intentional about my learning, schedule some time with myself where I want to make sure that it gets into my system, becomes a ritual for me, that I'm going to spend that much time for
Yeah.
learning, constant learning, right?
Yeah.
uh, Besides that, what are some of the things that you feel that would be a good advice for our viewers and listeners?
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, the first one, I think you've reiterated it beautifully, that one needs to make sure that we learn each day and we have that time set on our calendars to learning. I think that's the most critical one. The second I would say is how we need to be aware of how we are reacting to a failure to feedback and to criticism. Because sometimes all of us get very self critical or judgmental about others and self, where we say that, oh, I'm not going to take this person's feedback because I don't believe in it. I am right, and that's it. I think that's the mindset that we need to consciously shift, where we can
Right.
say that, oh, this person is giving us feedback. Let me learn from it. Let me see what one point I can extract from it and get better. So that's the second one. And the third one is just believe in yourself. Believe that you have this infinite within you. It is an energy, the spirit that you can grow in beautiful ways, and just don't stop yourself. And remember that the growth is has to be painful. It has to take your time, your effort, and if you're invested in your long term journey, then why don't you take that first step?
Great. Good advice. Absolutely wonderful advice. I mean, at the same time, I feel that uh, it's easier said than done when it comes to that, right? So and again, this quote from Einstein keeps coming back to my mind, is that you cannot solve a problem at the level that you have created it. So we have
Yeah,
created a mindset to solve a certain problems in the past, and
yeah,
now we are trying to use the same mindset to solve a new set of problems which require a new set of tools which is there. And so one of the ways that I have learned, I mean, I'm a coach myself, but at the same time, what I have learned is, for me to learn and grow from where I am to the next level, I also need a coach,
yeah,
somebody as a reflecting board for me to work with. Because uh, for learning new things, you need three things: mindset, skill set, and tool set.
yeah.
Skill set and tool sets are readily available, but at the same time, adoption of those skill sets and tool sets is something that will happen only if you are able to answer a question, that why question for yourself. That is about the
Correct,
mindset, right?
correct.
So it's a yeah. So find somebody that you can have a chat with. I mean, coaching is a big word. I'm not talking in terms of having a coach, but anybody that you have kind of trust in, and that you can open yourself up to. It's a
Mhm.
great way for you to start working on any new skill, including the growth mindset, um, uh,
Absolutely.
to move forward. But apart from that one, uh, yes, you can reach out to Utkarsh also when it comes to coaching part is concerned. So my last request to you, Utkarsh, are there any resources that you can share with, or point us in the direction where we can go to find some more material on how to grow and develop this growth mindset?
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest resources is to just pick that book, Mindsets by Carol Dweck. I think it introduces you in beautiful ways about the growth mindset, and then it becomes more real for someone who's hearing about it for the first time. So we can definitely put that link for our community. And then
Right.
beyond that, there'll be a couple of maybe articles that I can also share. I'll put
Sure.
those links later today, and then yeah, people can go through that.
Brilliant, wonderful. Thank you very much. It has been absolute pleasure talking to you about it and learning a few more things about growth mindset, which I myself was not aware of. So maybe that was the learning for me for the day here. So thanks a lot for coming
Thank
on
you.
this show, kind of talk show, and hope
Absolutely.
to hope to connect with you sometime soon again in the future. And so, for our audiences, listeners, if you would like to reach Utkarsh for any help or to check out the resources that he is sharing, just hit the links at the bottom of this post. And until next time, uh, bye bye. And thank you once again, Utkarsh. Bye bye.
Thank you. Lovely speaking to you, Rajiv. Bye.